Earthbound is truly a special game, a cult classic if you will. Earthbound, known as Mother 2 in Japan, is an RPG for the SNES that came out in June 1995 that has somehow managed to stand the test of time and inspired many other games that have also met critical acclaim. It had a rocky reception in the West due to some questionable advertising, its simple design and overall lack of market interest, leading it to sell roughly 140,000 copies in the States. But despite all that, as more and more people got their hands on the game, the popularity of it skyrocketed and people came to sing its praises. And why is that? Why is Earthbound so beloved exactly? In Earthbound, you play as a young kid named Ness, living in the idealistic town of Onet, if you don't count the local gangs anyway. When a meteor crash lands on a nearby hill in the middle of the night and things start to go awry, the evil alien Gygas has already begun to spread his evil influence around the world, driving animals mad and people to do terrible, awful things such as kidnapping children, being generally rude, and even attacking people. Leave it to the cops to do such a thing. Through your adventure, you'll visit many towns, dungeons, and other locales, all while making new friends. You meet the sweet girl, Paula, who acts as the guardian to the kids in her preschool that her parents own, Jeff, the nerdy kid, inventor and son of Dr. and Donuts, and the oddly named Pooh, a prince and aspiring martial artist from the land of Dalam. All four friends are sent on a journey across the land to uncover 8 parts of a mythical melody and defeat Gygas to save the world. Now, when I initially played Earthbound, I was probably in my late teens. My first exposure to the game at all was unlocking Ness in the original Super Smash Bros. And wondering who the fuck was this kid with the psychic powers? Beating the shit out of people with a baseball bat and a yo-yo, like, fuck yeah, get your bag. I didn't actually play the game and beat it until like years later on a completely legal copy on completely legal software. And I didn't understand the weird esoteric nature of it. I thought the grinding aspects were insufferable, and as an RPG I found it to be frankly not all that fun, but as I got older I began to appreciate more and more of the quirks and the odd eccentricities of the game. Early on in the game you get a bike, kind of like you get the bike in Pokemon, but only one person can ride it, and then you get your second party member like minutes later after getting the bike. That's weird. At some point in the mid-game you're tasked with making it through a dungeon in the desert. You remember that dungeon in Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask where it was like the Gibdos at the bottom of the well? You had to give them items. Yeah, you had to do that in Earthbound too, but they're monkeys, and each monkey requires a certain item. And eventually a monkey will ask you for a piece of pizza. And if you don't have the pizza, you have to leave the dungeon and then go to a payphone and then call and order a pizza, have it delivered. You have to wait like 3 real ass minutes to get the pizza. And then you go back into the dungeon and you give it to him. Okay. Pooh, the 4th party member you get in the game, he can't wear any armor that he doesn't get from his home village. And not just that, but he won't eat any like hamburgers. He won't eat anything that you won't get from his home village. It's very bizarre. And there's a lot of moments in the game where it's very tedious and weird, very annoying for a lot of people. And it's like, how was I supposed to know that? How are you supposed to know to do this? This is stupid. But that's the thing. It becomes infinitely funnier when you take a step back and look at it in a different way. You can tell I've kind of given up on reading off of the script at this point, but the game does have a lot of goofy moments like this, and you have to appreciate it for that, because it's like, what other games do these moments exist in? What other game forces you to recite a password to somebody behind a waterfall and then wait like 3 full minutes without touching the controller? You just have to like go up and make a sandwich and then you come back and then the door is open. Like, what other game does that? It's just, the game is full of moments like that. And when I first played it, I'm like, this is really dumb. But then I played it as an adult and I'm like, this is really refreshing and cool and funny and I love it. And that's why a lot of people like the game too. It's very goofy and silly and fun. And it's like, you have to remember, this game came out in 1995 where most RPGs were like serious and grimdark. And this game does have those moments, but that's the reason why people love it so much, is that there's such a juxtaposition between both of them. Like both the tones that they have going on. We'll get into that in a bit, but just, you know, keep that in mind. I had mentioned just a second ago about how the game is overall fairly goofy, but there is a lot of depth to be had in Earthbound. Earthbound is fairly antithetical to other RPGs, especially at the time. You aren't playing as a knight or a hero in a standard medieval setting tasked with saving a princess or collecting magical MacGuffins. It's like, sure, you have latent psychic powers that you can use to fight people off and defeat enemies and all that, but you have to remember, you're just a kid. You're a kid set out into the big wide world with little direction. You've still got to go collect some magical pieces of song, but shh, don't worry, we'll get back to that later as well. Don't worry about it. Don't get me wrong, but like at the end of the day, you're just some kid. Your favorite things are baseball, steak, and rockin', whatever that is. You live at home with your mom and your sister and your dog, and suddenly you're thrust into this wild adventure in order to save the world. What's set up as a light romp to stop some intergalactic baddie becomes a trip into the surreal. Colorful, flashing backgrounds accompany every fight with weird, funky music. There's a strong juxtaposition between the comfy and the familiar, to the downright creepy and at times raw and real facts of the world. Like any RPG, you're incentivized to talk to NPCs to get more information about what it is you're supposed to do, but even without the influence of Gygas corrupting people's minds, a lot of people are just fucking rude. And you're a kid out on your own in the world, and as a kid you think any adult out there is gonna help you if you need it, but such is not the case in Earthbound or in real life. That innocence is stripped away from you when you realize that not everybody around you is going to be helpful. A lot of people are going to want to be hurtful towards you because they have their own things going on, and it's very unsettling, especially early on when you get mugged by a bunch of cops like I'd mentioned earlier. It's very real for some reason. It's very uncomfortable, you know. It's just a tragic fact of life that some people are going to be straight up mean and spiteful. Your neighbor Pokey, who you help out in the beginning of the game to go rescue his brother, ends up joining the bad guys anyway, either by being influenced by Gygas or because he's a snot-nosed little kid who wants to get back at you for some reason. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes you encounter people who are just straight up mean. Like I said, you're constantly fighting off animals, other people, inanimate objects being controlled by Gygas, and the further you get into your journey, the more disturbing things become, before ultimately culminating in a final section where you, spoilers, relinquish your human form, put yourselves into robots so you can travel back in time to essentially abort the fetus of your sworn enemy, not knowing if you'll be able to make it back, only to be stalked by your childhood friend, driven mad with greed and power just like many before him. You remember when we were ordering pizza for monkeys? Yeah.
But despite all that,
you know, despite all the terrible, awful things that happen in the game, there are still quite a good amount of grounded, heartfelt moments that exist in the game. You have the occasional coffee talk cutscenes to break up the story, recap everything you've accomplished, and if anything else, they push you to go further. You have glimpses into Ness's past as he collects the different parts of the melodies, detailing him as a baby taking his first steps into his mother's arms. The fact that Ness can actually get homesick, which handicaps him in battle, and the only way to cure it is to call your mom. There are so many moments in the game that are just beautiful and touching. The game does a lot to evoke nostalgia in its players and make him think about more innocent times. Maybe seen some points to be an inconvenience to the player, but it really drives home the fact that, as I said before, they're just kids, plunged into something bigger that they could possibly hope to grasp, and doing their best despite the challenges put in front of them. Your childlike innocence is crushed harshly by the reality of the world and the people-driven evil around you, with their emotions and desires amplified by alien influence. But there is one thing that keeps the kids grounded, and that's kindness. You know how I've been mentioning those melodies that you collect throughout the game? Well, without getting too much into the lore of the original Mother, which I would definitely encourage you to play if this video interests you at all, they come together to make up a lullaby, which affects Gygas in such a profound way that ends up defeating him. You defeat the alien evil with the power of a soothing lullaby, and the power of prayer from everybody who's helped you along your way. It's deeply profound and beautiful. Again, it all comes back to kindness. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. Despite everything bad that happens to you during the game, you're constantly looking out for your friends and other people. You're constantly making new friends. You're constantly meeting new people who have their heads held up high so you can have your head held up high as well. I reached out to Reddit to see what other people thought about this game and the reasons why they liked it, and there was one comment in particular that stood out to me, by a user named PK Thunda. It has a really great underlying philosophy. Be kind. Be genuine. Good things can come from those attributes, but even aiming for those goals is enough. It's seen as weird or quirky, but those are side effects of what it really is. Being kind when in an unkind situation is weird. Being genuine instead of embarrassed, instead of making an excuse, is weird. Be kind. Be genuine. Don't let the fear of being seen as weird get in the way of that. And that really is why people love Earthbound. It's a game full of heart and love and kindness in the face of adversity. It stands out on its own merit for being unapologetically itself, being unapologetically weird, and being so real and raw and full of emotion and love. It's been said many a time by Earthbound and other fans alike that Shigesato Itoi is a creative genius who has created a narrative so heartfelt, so warming that, albeit loosely, stretches across 3 games to tell stories of love, sorrow, and connection. In Itoi's own words, to realize a game can invoke these emotions in you, that they can make you think certain things or be moved by creations made. It's more than just if you were touring a museum for its own sake. I think it's more valuable than that. That's the kind of philosophy that leads to a game being made that's truly, wholly beloved. Hey everybody, it's Ume. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It's the first time I've ever made a video like it, so I appreciate you looking into it. Hopefully I did an okay job. Maybe I'll do one of these in the future. I don't know. But I just wanted to give a huge thanks to everybody who contributed, and thank you for watching till the end. I very much appreciate it. I do streams on Twitch. Maybe go check those out. That would be kind of cool. Yeah. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you.